Diana Hartwell slammed her palm on the marble counter. "You're fired! Get out! Now!" Jack Morrison stood frozen, mop still in hand, his worn blue uniform stained with floor cleaner. 50 employees watched in silence. "Ma'am, please. My daughter needs her insulin tonight. Can I at least get my last?" "Security will mail your check. Escort him out." Jack turned toward the exit, head down, dignity stripped. Then the window shook, rotor blades, thundering. A Coast Guard helicopter dropped into the parking lot. A captain stepped out with a megaphone. "We're here for Chief Petty Officer Stormbreaker. We know he's inside." Diana's face went white. The janitor stopped walking. "Comment your city below. Let's see how far this story travels." The Sterling Grand Hotel, Chicago. 6:47 a.m. Jack Morrison pushed his mop across the marble floor. Slow, methodical, invisible. That's how he liked it. Invisible. 41 years old. Single father. White guy in a faded blue uniform pushing a yellow bucket through a $400 million hotel where one night cost more than he made in a week. 3 years he'd worked here. Never late. Never sick. Never complained. The other staff called him Ghost. Not because he was quiet. Because he moved like he wasn't there. Like he'd trained himself to disappear. Nobody asked why. Nobody asked anything about Jack Morrison. His supervisor, Gerald, hurried across the lobby, clipboard shaking in his hands. "Jack, board meeting in the Azure Ballroom. They need the floors spotless in 20 minutes. Jack didn't look up. "Already done. Finished at 5. Gerald stopped walking. 5. That's a 4,000 square foot room." "I know. How do you do that?" 3 years, and I still can't figure you out. You work like a machine, never tired, never slow, never make mistakes." Jack finally met his eyes. Practice. He didn't explain that in his former life, he could set up a rescue staging area in hurricane conditions in under 2 hours. Cleaning a ballroom was nothing. Jack checked his watch. 7:15 a.m. Emma would be waking up soon. His daughter, 10 years old. Bright eyes. Bright smile. The only light left in his world. She had type 1 diabetes. The severe kind. The kind that meant constant monitoring, insulin pumps, emergency kits, hospital visits, medications that cost more than his rent. Every month, the same math. Rent, utilities, food, insulin. Insulin always won. Everything else could wait. His phone buzzed. Text from his neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. "Emma's up. Made her breakfast. She's asking when Daddy's coming home." Jack typed back, "Tell her I'll be there by 4. Tell her I love her." He put the phone away, squeezed the mop handle until his knuckles went white. 4 more hours, then he'd pick up her prescription. Then he'd go home. Then he'd make her favorite dinner spaghetti with extra cheese. Then he'd watch her fall asleep. That was his whole world now. That was enough. The executive floor buzzed with nervous energy at 8:30 a.m. Diana Hartwell stepped off the elevator. Heels clicking, eyes sharp, jaw tight. 34 years old. Youngest CEO in company history, not by choice. Her father, Richard Hartwell, built this empire from nothing. 1 hotel became 5. 5 became 20. 20 became a dynasty worth $500 million. Then 6 months ago, Richard collapsed in this very lobby. Heart attack. Dead before the ambulance arrived. Diana inherited everything. The hotels, the board, the doubt. She's too young. She's too emotional. She'll run it into the ground. She heard the whispers, saw the looks, felt the knives waiting for her back. So she became ice. No weakness, no mercy, no mistakes. Her assistant Rachel hurried beside her. "Ma'am, board meeting in 30 minutes. Also, there's been a complaint from the night manager about one of the janitorial staff." Diana didn't slow down. "What kind of complaint?" "Unauthorized cleaning methods." One of the janitors has been using some kind of industrial water filtration technique that's not in our protocol manual. Diana stopped. Turned. Unauthorized. Yes, ma'am. He's been doing it for months. The night manager finally reported it. Diana's eyes narrowed. Unauthorized meant unapproved. Unapproved meant liability. Liability meant weakness. Who is it? Rachel checked her tablet. Jack Morrison, third floor janitorial staff. Get him. Jack was restocking supplies in the utility closet when Gerald found him. Jack, CEO wants to see you, now. Jack straightened. What for? Gerald's face was pale. I don't know. But she doesn't look happy. Jack followed Gerald through the service corridors. His mind stayed calm. His heartbeat stayed steady. He'd faced 40-foot waves and Alaskan storms with less warning. A hotel CEO didn't scare him. But something in Gerald's voice made him uneasy. Something wrong. They reached the main lobby. Diana stood near the front desk. Rachel beside her. 3 security guards behind her. The morning shift was arriving. Housekeepers, bellhops, front desk staff. Maybe 50 people in the lobby now, all watching. Diana saw Jack approach. Her eyes locked on him like targeting radar. You're Jack Morrison. Yes, ma'am. You've been using unauthorized cleaning techniques in this hotel. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. Jack kept his voice level. I've been using a water filtration method I learned in the service. It's more effective than standard protocol. Removes 99% of contaminants in half the time. It's not in our manual. No, ma'am, because it's better than what's in your manual. The lobby went silent. Gerald closed his eyes, whispered under his breath. Oh no. Diana's jaw tightened. Excuse me. Jack didn't flinch. Your protocol uses a chlorine-based solution with a 15-minute contact time. My method uses an advanced filtration system with UV activation. 8 minutes. Better coverage. Fewer chemicals. Safer for guests with respiratory issues. You're telling me you know better than our certified protocols. I'm telling you I've decontaminated rescue stations in hurricane zones. I know what works. Whispers rippled through the staff. Hurricane zones. The janitor. Diana felt the eyes on her, felt the doubt, felt the challenge. This man was undermining her in front of everyone. She couldn't show weakness, couldn't back down, couldn't let a janitor make her look uncertain. The board meeting was in 20 minutes. Harrison Wells, the chairman who'd been trying to force her out since her father died, would be watching her every move. Her voice turned cold. Mr. Morrison, you don't follow protocol. You don't work here. Jack felt it coming, saw it in her eyes, the fear disguised as authority. Ma'am, you're fired, effective immediately. The lobby gasped. Jack stood perfectly still. His hands didn't shake. His expression didn't change. But inside something cracked. Not for himself, for Emma. Her insulin. $212. Due today. He had $143 in his account. His voice came out quiet, controlled, barely above a whisper. Ma'am, I have a daughter. She's sick. Her insulin is due tonight. Can I at least get my last paycheck before I go? Diana heard him. She saw the desperation he was trying to hide. For a fraction of a second, something flickered across her face. Something human. But 50 staff members were watching. The board meeting was in 20 minutes. She couldn't show softness, couldn't show hesitation. Compassion was weakness. Her father taught her that. Security will mail your final check. Please surrender your badge and leave the premises. Jack unclipped his badge, handed it to Gerald. Their eyes met for a second. Gerald looked away, ashamed. Jack turned, walked toward the service exit. 50 people watched him go. Some felt bad. Most stayed silent. Diana's voice rang out behind him. Let this be a reminder to all staff. Protocol exists for a reason. Deviation will not be tolerated. Jack pushed through the door. The morning sun hit his face. Cold Chicago wind cut through his thin uniform. He stood there, alone, unemployed, unable to afford his daughter's insulin. His phone buzzed. Mrs. Patterson. Emma's asking if you can bring ice cream tonight. She says her stomach feels funny, but she's being brave. Jack's hands shook. He had failed her. Inside the lobby, the staff dispersed slowly, whispering. Did you see his face cold as ice? He said something about hurricane zones. You think that's true? Probably just talk, trying to save his job. Gerald stood frozen. He'd worked with Jack for 3 years. The man never bragged, never complained, never talked about himself. But Gerald had noticed things. The way Jack moved, efficient, precise, like every motion was calculated. The way his eyes scanned rooms automatically, like he was checking for threats. The old green duffel bag in his locker. Faded patches, insignia scratched off. Gerald had been in the Navy. 30 years ago. Basic training, nothing special. But he recognized the signs. Jack Morrison wasn't just a janitor. Diana returned to her office. Rachel followed. Ma'am, board meeting in 15. I know. Diana sat behind her desk, pulled up the quarterly reports. Her hands were steady, but something nagged at her. Something in the way Jack had spoken. Confident, calm, like he'd faced worse than her. Hurricane zones. She opened her laptop, typed advanced water filtration UV decontamination, Coast Guard. Results loaded. Her eyes widened. The technique Jack described was real, developed by FEMA and the Coast Guard for rapid disaster response decontamination. Accuracy rate 99.7%. Time efficiency 47% faster than civilian protocols. She'd fired him for using a superior method. She'd fired him for being better than her manual. Diana closed the laptop, pushed the feeling down. I made the decision. I stand by it. But the doubt remained, like a splinter she couldn't reach. Jack walked 6 blocks to the pharmacy. His mind was racing. Options, possibilities, solutions. He could pawn something, but he'd already pawned everything of value. He could ask Mrs. Patterson for a loan, but she was on fixed income. Social Security barely covered her own bills. He could call his old Coast Guard contacts, but that would mean explaining, answering questions, reopening doors he'd sealed shut 5 years ago. No, he'd figure it out. He always did. The pharmacy was small, independent. Mr. Okonkwo, the owner, knew Jack by name, knew Emma by name, knew their story without ever being told. Jack approached the counter. I'm here for Emma Morrison, the insulin prescription. Mr. Okonkwo typed on his computer. His face fell. Jack, it's $212, and with the price increase this month, price increase. The manufacturer raised it again. I'm sorry, I can't control it. Jack pulled out his wallet, counted the bills, the coins, $143.67. I'm short. Mr. Okonkwo looked at him with pain in his eyes. Jack, I wish I could help, but I'm barely keeping this place open. Insurance companies, regulations, the big chains. I understand. Jack stood there, staring at the money in his hand. Not enough. Never enough. Behind him, the door chimed. Someone entered. He didn't turn around. Mr. Okonkwo leaned forward, lowered his voice. Listen, I can give you a 3-day sample, enough to get through the weekend, but Monday you need the full prescription. She can't miss doses. Jack's throat tightened. Thank you. Thank you. He took the sample pack, put his money away, turned to leave. A woman blocked his path. She wore a Coast Guard dress uniform, captain's eagles on her shoulders, silver hair pulled back tight. Her eyes were fixed on him like she'd been searching for years. Jack Morrison. He stopped. His whole body went rigid. Every muscle locked. Chief Petty Officer, 16 years. Coast Guard Aviation, Rescue Swimmer Division. Call sign Stormbreaker. The pharmacy went silent. Mr. Okonkwo stared. Jack's voice was ice. You have the wrong man. No, I don't. She stepped closer. Her voice dropped. Operation Arctic Storm. Alaska, 2019. The fishing vessel Northern Spirit capsized in 40-foot waves during a Category 3 winter storm. 12 fishermen in the water. Hypothermia setting in. Rescue helicopters couldn't get close enough. Jack didn't move, didn't breathe. You dove into those waters 12 times. 40-degree water, 60-knot winds. You pulled 11 men to safety, carried the last one on your back through 200 yards of open ocean. Her voice softened. Your partner, Lieutenant Michael Chen. He died saving the 12th man. You held him while the helicopter lifted you both out. He was gone before you reached the deck. Jack's jaw clenched so tight he thought his teeth might crack. That man is dead. Then I'm talking to his ghost. She pulled out a tablet. Because right now, Chief, a cruise ship with 847 passengers is taking on water off the Alaskan coast. 2 rescue attempts have failed. The underwater terrain is treacherous. Our teams can't find a safe approach. 4 Coast Guard personnel are already injured. She showed him satellite imagery. A massive ship. Tilted. Rocks visible beneath the surface. Heat signatures everywhere. Standard protocols aren't working. Our analysts can't crack the pattern. She looked him dead in the eyes. But you can. You know those waters better than anyone alive. You wrote the rescue manual for that sector. Jack stared at the screen. His trained eye was already working, already analyzing. Current patterns, rock formations, tide schedules, approach vectors. He shut it down, pushed the tablet away. I have a daughter. She needs me. I'm not going back. The captain didn't flinch. One of those passengers is a single mother, Dr. Maria Santos. She's a pediatrician. She went on that cruise to take her son somewhere special after his father died last year. Her son's name is Lucas. He's 9 years old. Jack closed his eyes. Lucas is in that ship right now, wondering if he's going to see his mother again, wondering if they're both going to die. Silence. The captain continued. I'm not asking you to dive into the water. I'm not asking you to leave your daughter. I'm asking you to look at the data. Find something we missed. That's all. Jack thought of Emma, waiting at home, trusting him to come back. Then he thought of Lucas, 9 years old, scared, trapped on a sinking ship with his mother. The same age Emma was when Sarah died. The same fear, the same prayers, the same desperate hope. Where's your command center? The captain almost smiled. We've set up at the Sterling Grand Hotel, Conference Room B. The CEO gave us access this morning. Jack laughed. A bitter, hollow sound. Of course she did. Diana was in the board meeting when Rachel burst through the door. Ma'am, you need to see this. Now. Diana looked at the board members. 8 faces staring at her. Harrison Wells, at the far end, that smug smile already forming. We're in the middle of... The Coast Guard is landing a helicopter in our parking lot. The room went silent. Diana stood, walked to the window. Below, a Coast Guard MH-65 Dolphin helicopter descended through the morning air. Rotor wash scattered debris across the perfectly manicured grounds. Personnel in orange flight suits poured out, setting up equipment, running cables. A captain walked toward the hotel entrance, and beside her, in his worn janitor uniform, walked Jack Morrison. Diana's blood went cold. What the hell? Harrison Wells, 72 years old, silver hair, cold eyes, joined her at the window. That's a search and rescue transport. I recognize the insignia. Whatever they're here for, it's not small. Diana watched Jack walk through the lobby doors, head high, shoulders back. He moved different now. Not like a janitor. Like a soldier. Rachel appeared at the door. Face white. "Ma'am, the captain is requesting full access to conference room B. She says it's a matter of national security." Diana waited. "And she says—" Rachel swallowed. "She says they're here for Jack Morrison. She called him Chief Petty Officer Stormbreaker." The boardroom erupted. "The janitor? What does the Coast Guard want with a janitor? This is absurd." Harrison's voice cut through the noise. "Victoria, what exactly did you do this morning?" Diana said nothing. She just stared out the window. 45 minutes ago, she'd fired Jack Morrison in front of 50 staff members. Called him a protocol violation. A liability. Now the United States Coast Guard was landing helicopters for him. Harrison leaned close. Whispered so only she could hear. "Your father would be so disappointed." Diana felt the words like a knife between her ribs. But she didn't respond. Because she didn't know what was happening. She only knew one thing for certain. The janitor she'd humiliated this morning wasn't a janitor at all, and whatever came next was going to change everything. Conference Room B transformed within the hour. Satellite feeds covered every screen. Secure communication lines ran across the floor like arteries. Coast Guard personnel moved with urgent precision, converting a corporate meeting space into a military command center. Jack stood at the center table, still wearing his janitor uniform. The blue fabric felt heavier now. Wrong. Like wearing a costume he'd outgrown. Captain Rebecca Shaw spread classified documents in front of him. Her voice was all business. The Pacific Majesty. Cruise liner. 847 passengers. 212 crew. She hit submerged rocks 14 hours ago off Kodiak Island, taking on water in the lower decks, listing 11 degrees and getting worse. Jack studied the imagery. His mind slipped back into old patterns, old training. Vessel assessment, passenger distribution, evacuation protocols. "Why haven't you evacuated?" "We've tried, twice." Shaw pulled up another screen. "The underwater terrain is a nightmare. Submerged rock formations extend half a mile in every direction. Our rescue boats can't get close enough without risking hull damage. Helicopter extraction is too slow for this many passengers. We've moved 43 people in 6 hours. At that rate, you'll need 4 more days. The ship doesn't have 4 days. Engineers estimate 18 hours before she rolls." Jack's jaw tightened. 18 hours. 800 people. "Show me the sonar mapping." Shaw nodded to a technician. New images appeared. Jack leaned in, eyes scanning, processing, remembering. He'd worked these waters for 8 years. Knew every rock formation, every current pattern, every trick the Alaskan coastline used to kill the unprepared. "Here." He pointed at a narrow gap in the rock formation. "This channel. It's not on your current charts." Shaw frowned. "There's nothing there. Sonar shows solid rock." "Sonar's wrong. There's a passage, 40 feet wide. Deep enough for rigid hull inflatables at high tide. The rocks create an acoustic shadow that confuses standard mapping." "How do you know?" Jack was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was distant. "Because I've used it before. Operation Arctic Storm. We brought 3 rescue boats through that channel during the Northern Spirit recovery." Shaw stared at the screen, then at Jack. "That operation is classified." "I know. I wrote the after-action report." The room went still. Every Coast Guard officer turned to look at the janitor in the blue uniform. Shaw pulled up another file. Her voice dropped. "Chief Petty Officer Jack Morrison, rescue swimmer, 16 years active service. 437 documented water rescues. 11 commendations. Coast Guard Medal. 2 Distinguished Service citations." She paused. "Operation Arctic Storm. Lead rescue swimmer. 12 successful extractions in Category 3 conditions. Single-handedly responsible for saving 11 lives that night." Jack didn't respond. His eyes stayed fixed on the satellite imagery. You resigned 3 months after the operation. Disability separation. The file says PTSD and family hardship. The file is correct. The file doesn't explain why one of the best rescue swimmers in Coast Guard history walked away and became a hotel janitor. Jack finally looked at her. His eyes were empty, hollow, the eyes of a man who'd seen too much and survived too long. My partner died in my arms during that operation. My wife died 3 months later. My daughter was 4 years old. His voice cracked slightly. I had nothing left to give the Coast Guard. I had everything left to give her. Shaw was silent for a long moment. I'm sorry, Chief. I didn't know about your wife. Most people don't. Jack turned back to the screens, switched off the emotion like flipping a circuit breaker. Pure focus now, pure mission. The channel opens during high tide. You've got a 47-minute window starting at... He checked the tide charts. 14:12 local time. That's 6 hours from now. 47 minutes isn't enough to evacuate 800 people. It's enough to get rescue boats alongside the ship. Once you're there, you can run continuous shuttle operations through the channel. Jack traced his finger along the map. Station your helicopter here for overflow. Focus on the injured and elderly first. Children second. Able-bodied passengers last. Shaw studied the plan. Her tactical mind was already running calculations. The current through that channel will be brutal. Our boat operators don't know those waters. Then talk them through it. I can guide them from here. Shaw shook her head. Radio guidance won't be enough. That channel has a dogleg turn at the 60-meter mark. Miss it by 10 feet and you're on the rocks. I know. We need someone who's actually run that channel. Someone who can pilot the lead boat. Jack's hands gripped the table edge. He understood what she was asking. I told you, I can't leave my daughter. I'm not asking you to dive into the water. I'm asking you to drive a boat. One trip through the channel to show our operators the path. Then you come back here and coordinate from the command center. And if something goes wrong, then 847 people die because we couldn't find another way. Jack closed his eyes, saw Emma's face, her smile, her trust. Then he saw Lucas Santos, 9 years old, trapped on a sinking ship with his mother, wondering if help was coming. His phone buzzed. Mrs. Patterson, Emma's home from school. She's asking about you. Says her stomach still feels funny, but she doesn't want to worry you. Jack's heart clenched. I need to make a call. Shaw nodded. Jack stepped away from the table. Dialed. Mrs. Patterson, how is she? She's fine, Jack, watching cartoons, but she keeps asking when you're coming home. Can you put her on? A moment of shuffling, then Emma's voice. Bright, innocent. Daddy. Hey, baby girl. How are you feeling? My tummy feels weird, but I'm okay. Are you coming home soon? Jack pressed his palm against his forehead, squeezed his eyes shut. Baby, I need to tell you something. Some people need help. Important help. And they asked Daddy to... He couldn't finish. The words stuck in his throat. Daddy, are you saving people again? Jack's breath caught. How do you know about that? Mrs. Patterson told me. She said you used to save people from the ocean. She said you were a hero. Jack was silent. Daddy, if people need help, you should help them. That's what you always tell me. We help people who need it. But I promised I'd be home by 4. It's okay, Daddy. Mrs. Patterson makes good mac and cheese, and you can bring ice cream when you come back. Jack laughed, a broken sound. Half sob, half surrender. I love you, Emma. All the way to the moon and back. I love you too, Daddy. All the way to the moon and back again. He hung up, stood there for a moment, collecting himself. When he turned back to the table, his eyes were different, focused, clear, the eyes of Chief Petty Officer Stormbreaker. One trip through the channel, that's all. Then I'm back here coordinating. Shaw nodded. Understood. And I need access to the emergency fund. $69. My daughter's insulin. Shaw didn't hesitate. Done. Whatever you need, Chief. Whatever you need. Outside the conference room, Diana stood frozen at the window. She'd been watching for nearly an hour. Through the glass walls, she saw Jack commanding the room, saw military officers taking orders from him, saw classified documents spread across the table. The janitor she'd fired this morning was directing a Coast Guard rescue operation. Rachel appeared beside her. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Ma'am, I found his file. His real file." Diana took the tablet, started reading. Chief Petty Officer Jack Morrison. Enlisted 2003. Coast Guard Aviation Training Center. Distinguished graduate. Rescue Swimmer School. Top of class. Assigned Air Station Kodiak, Alaska. 16 years active duty. Documented rescues. 437 lives saved. 612 commendations. Coast Guard Medal. Distinguished Service Citation 2. Meritorious Service Medal. Air Medal 3. Diana's hands began to shake. Operation Arctic Storm, 2019. Lead rescue swimmer during maritime disaster response. Performed 12 water extractions in Category 3 storm conditions. Personally saved 11 lives. Partner KIA during operation. Note: CPO Morrison refused Silver Star nomination. Stated, the medal belongs to Lieutenant Chen. Diana looked up from the tablet. Through the glass, Jack was pointing at something on a screen. The captain was nodding. Personal note: spouse, Sarah Morrison, deceased March 2019. Cause cerebral aneurysm. CPO Morrison, single parent to daughter Emma, age 10. Voluntary separation, July 2019. Reason: family hardship, PTSD. Current status: inactive reserve. Diana's eyes burned. She blinked hard, refused to let the tears fall. She'd fired a hero. A man who'd saved over 600 lives. A single father who gave up everything for his daughter. She'd fired him for cleaning floors too well. Rachel's voice was gentle. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Diana didn't answer. She just stared through the glass at Jack Morrison and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Shame. The boardroom door opened behind her. Harrison Wells emerged, his face a mask of calculated concern. "Diana, a word." She turned, composed herself. "Harrison, this situation is unusual." He gestured toward the conference room. "The Coast Guard commandeering our facilities, the press gathering outside, and apparently it all centers around a janitor you fired this morning." "Former janitor?" "Yes, former janitor who turns out to be some kind of decorated military hero." Harrison's smile was cold. "The optics aren't good, Diana. Board members are asking questions." "What kind of questions?" "Questions about your judgment. Questions about whether you properly vet employees. Questions about whether you're qualified to lead this company." Diana felt the familiar ice forming around her heart, the armor she'd built since her father's death. "I made a decision based on available information. The information was incomplete." "That's a charitable interpretation." Harrison stepped closer. "Some board members might see it differently. They might see a young CEO who publicly humiliated a war hero, who prioritized protocol over people, who made this company look heartless on the same day the Coast Guard landed a helicopter in our parking lot." "What do you want, Harrison?" "I want what's best for this company. What your father wanted." His voice dropped. "The board meets again in 3 days. There will be a vote of confidence. I suggest you prepare accordingly." He walked away, calm, satisfied. A predator who'd spotted weakness. Diana stood alone in the corridor, the weight of everything pressing down. Her father's legacy, the company, the board, Harrison's scheming, and through the glass, a janitor who was somehow more qualified to lead than she'd ever been. Inside the conference room, Jack felt eyes on him. He glanced toward the window. Diana stood there, watching. Her face was pale. Something broken in her expression. Their eyes met through the glass, just for a moment. She looked away first. Jack turned back to the screens. He had 800 lives to save. Everything else could wait. The operation planning continued for another 2 hours. Jack mapped every detail of the channel approach. Wind patterns, current speeds, rock positions, the dogleg turn at 60 meters. The Coast Guard operators listened intently, took notes, asked questions. At 1100 hours, Shaw called a break. "Chief Morrison, a word." Jack followed her to a quiet corner. "You know this is more than one boat trip," Shaw said. "If the channel is as tricky as you say, our operators will need you guiding them for the entire evacuation window." "I know. That's potentially 8 hours on the water, in March, off the Alaskan coast." "I've done longer." Shaw studied his face. "You've been out of the field for 5 years. Desk work, mop and bucket. Are you sure you're ready for this?" Jack thought about it. The honest answer was no. 5 years had softened him, slowed him. The cold water reflexes that once came automatically now felt distant, theoretical. But 800 people were running out of time. "I'm ready enough." Shaw nodded slowly. "There's something else. The passenger manifest. I had my team cross-reference it." She handed him a tablet. Dr. Maria Santos, age 38, pediatric oncologist at Seattle Children's Hospital, traveling with her son Lucas, age 9. Her husband died of cancer 18 months ago. This cruise was supposed to be their first vacation since the funeral. Jack stared at the photo, a dark-haired woman with kind eyes, a boy with his mother's smile. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you need to know who you're saving." Shaw's voice was quiet. "It's easy to think of numbers. 847 passengers. Abstract, distant. But they're not numbers, Chief. They're Maria. They're Lucas. They're 900 people with families and hopes and fears. Just like your Emma." Jack handed back the tablet. "I know who I'm saving. That's why I'm here." Shaw almost smiled. "The transport helo leaves in 4 hours. We'll get you to the staging area by 1400. First rescue boat runs the channel at 1412. "I'll be ready." Jack walked back toward the conference room. Passing through the lobby, he noticed the morning shift staff still whispering, still staring. Gerald intercepted him. "Jack, Chief Morrison, I just wanted to say..." He struggled for words. "I'm sorry. For everything. I should have said something this morning. When Diana... You didn't know. I suspected. The way you moved. The way you worked. Nobody cleans a ballroom that efficiently without training." Gerald shook his head. 3 years we worked together. You never said a word. I wasn't looking for recognition. Why hide who you are?" Jack was quiet for a moment. "Because the man I used to be couldn't be Emma's father. Stormbreaker lived in helicopters and freezing water. He didn't make spaghetti dinners. He didn't help with homework. He didn't sit by hospital beds when his daughter's blood sugar crashed." Jack looked Gerald in the eye. "I buried Stormbreaker when I buried my wife. Jack Morrison, the janitor, the dad, the nobody. He's the one who could be there for Emma every day at 4 o'clock. Gerald was silent. "But sometimes," Jack continued, "the ghost doesn't stay buried. Sometimes 800 people need him to come back." He walked toward the conference room. Gerald watched him go. The hotel lobby felt different now, charged, electric. Everyone knew something extraordinary was happening. And at the center of it, the invisible man they'd ignored for 3 years was suddenly the most important person in the building. The afternoon passed in controlled chaos. Equipment checks, communication tests, final briefings. Jack changed out of his janitor uniform. Someone had found him a Coast Guard flight suit. Orange. Familiar. It fit like muscle memory. He stared at himself in the bathroom mirror. The face looking back was older, more tired. But the eyes, The eyes were the same ones that had stared down 40-foot waves and refused to quit. Stormbreaker, he whispered. The name tasted strange after 5 years. His phone buzzed. Video call from Mrs. Patterson. He answered. Emma's face filled the screen. Daddy, Mrs. Patterson said you're on TV. What? The news. They're talking about a ship that's sinking, and they said the Coast Guard is helping, and Mrs. Patterson said that's what you used to do. Jack's stomach dropped. He hadn't thought about the press, the cameras outside, the story spreading. Baby, listen to me. I need you to do something important. What? I need you to be brave. I have to help some people, and it might take longer than I thought. But I promise I will come home. Emma's face grew serious. The same look she got during blood sugar checks. Determined. Focused. Pinky promise. Jack held up his pinky to the camera. Pinky promise. That's the strongest kind. I know, baby. Daddy. Yeah. Save all the people. Okay, all of them. Jack's throat tightened. I'll try, baby. I'll try. I love you all the way to the moon and back. I love you too. All the way to the moon and back again. He hung up, pressed the phone against his forehead, breathed. Then he straightened his flight suit and walked toward the helicopter. Outside, the rotor blades were already spinning. Shaw waited by the door. Ready, Chief? Jack looked back at the hotel. Somewhere inside, Diana Hartwell was watching. 50 employees were watching. The world was watching. He climbed into the helicopter. Let's bring them home. The Dolphin lifted off. Chicago shrank below. Jack watched the city disappear through the window. 5 years ago, he'd left this life behind. Sworn he'd never go back. Promised himself, promised Sarah's memory that Emma would always come first. Now he was flying toward the Alaskan coast, toward freezing water, toward 800 people who needed a ghost to save them. Emma's voice echoed in his mind. Save all the people, Daddy. All of them. Jack Morrison closed his eyes. Stormbreaker opened them. And somewhere over Lake Michigan, the invisible man finally let himself be seen. The helicopter touched down at Air Station Kodiak 7 hours later. Jack stepped onto the tarmac and the Alaskan wind hit him like a fist. Cold, brutal, familiar. 5 years since he'd breathed this air. 5 years since he'd heard the scream of Arctic wind through helicopter rotors. 5 years since he'd watched Lieutenant Mike Chen die in his arms on a night exactly like this one. Shaw walked beside him toward the staging area. You okay, Chief? Fine. You don't look fine. Jack stopped walking, turned to face her. The last time I was here, I buried my best friend. The time before that, I pulled 11 fishermen out of 40-foot waves while the 12th one drowned because I couldn't reach him fast enough. So no, Captain. I'm not okay. But I don't need to be okay. I just need to be good enough. Shaw studied his face. Whatever she saw there, she didn't argue. Briefing in 10 minutes. The Pacific Majesty is listing 14 degrees now. We're running out of time. The staging area buzzed with controlled chaos. Rescue swimmers suiting up. Boat crews checking equipment. Radio operators coordinating with the ship. Everyone moving with purpose. Jack walked through the crowd and felt ghosts everywhere. The smell of neoprene and diesel fuel. The sound of rescue checklists being called out. The tension that came before every operation when lives hung in the balance. A young rescue swimmer approached him. Couldn't have been more than 25. Name tape read Collins. Chief Morrison, I'm Petty Officer Collins. They said you'd be running the channel with us. That's right. Sir, I just wanted to say, I studied your operations at Rescue Swimmer School. Operation Arctic Storm is legendary. What you did that night. Collins shook his head. They still use it as the gold standard for multi-victim cold water extraction. Jack felt the weight of those words. The weight of a night he'd spent 5 years trying to forget. The gold standard got my partner killed. Colin's face fell. "Sir, I didn't mean—" "It's fine." Jack softened his voice. "Just focus on the mission. How many boats in the first wave?" 3 rigid hulls, 12-person capacity each. We're planning shuttle runs through the channel until everyone's off. Shuttle runs won't work. The tide window is 47 minutes. After that, the channel closes, and you're stuck outside the rock field until the next cycle. So what do? We don't shuttle. We convoy. All boats go through together. Load as many passengers as possible on the first run. Come back through before the window closes. Repeat every 12 hours until the ship is empty or goes down." Collins blinked. "That's not standard protocol." "Standard protocol assumes you have time. We don't." Shaw's voice cut through the noise. "All personnel briefing room, 5 minutes." Jack followed the crowd into a metal building that served as the Operation Command Center. Maps covered every wall. Screens showed live satellite feeds of the Pacific Majesty, her white hull tilted against the gray Alaskan Sea. Shaw took position at the front. "Listen up. Here's where we stand. 847 passengers, 212 crew. Ship is listing 14 degrees and taking on water faster than pumps can handle. Captain estimates 18 hours until she rolls, but that's optimistic. Could be sooner." She pulled up the channel map. "Chief Morrison has identified an approach route through the rock field. It's narrow, it's dangerous, and it's our only option." She gestured for Jack to take over. He walked to the front. Felt every eye in the room on him. Rescue swimmers, boat crews, helicopter pilots, the best the Coast Guard had. The channel is 40 feet wide at the narrowest point. Current runs 6 knots during the tide change. There's a dogleg turn at 60 meters, miss it, and you're on the rocks. Jack pointed at the satellite image. "I'll pilot the lead boat. Follow my line exactly. No improvisation, no shortcuts. If I say stop, you stop. If I say turn, you turn. The margin for error is 0. A boat crew chief raised his hand. "What about passenger loading? How do we prioritize?" "Medical emergencies first. We have reports of injured passengers from the initial impact. Then elderly and disabled. Then families with children. Able-bodied adults last. And the crew. The captain and essential crew stay until the last passenger is off. That's maritime law, and it's not negotiable." Shaw stepped forward. "Questions?" Silence. "Then suit up. First wave launches in 90 minutes." The room emptied. Jack stayed behind studying the satellite feeds. The Pacific Majesty looked fragile from above. A massive ship brought low by rocks and water and the indifference of the Alaskan Sea. His phone buzzed. Text from Mrs. Patterson. Emma's blood sugar dropped. "I gave her juice. She's okay now, but asking for you." Jack's chest tightened. He typed back, "Keep monitoring. Call me if it drops again. Tell her I love her." The response came immediately. "She says she loves you too. She says save all the people." Jack put the phone away, stared at the screen showing the sinking ship. 800 people who needed a ghost. 1 little girl who needed her father. Both waiting, both depending on him. He walked outside to suit up. The rigid hull inflatable boat felt smaller than Jack remembered. 12 feet of aluminum and rubber between him and the Alaskan Sea. The engine roared as he checked the controls. Collins climbed aboard along with 2 other rescue swimmers. Behind them, 2 more boats loaded with rescue personnel. Shaw's voice crackled through the radio. "Stormbreaker, this is command. You are cleared for departure. Tide window opens in 17 minutes. Good luck, Chief." Jack keyed his radio. "Copy that command. Convoy departing." He pushed the throttle forward. The boat surged across the water. The Pacific Majesty grew larger as they approached. From sea level, she looked even worse than the satellite images. Her starboard side rode low in the water. Emergency lights flashed along her decks. Jack could see passengers crowded at the railings watching the rescue boats approach. 800 people. Waiting. Hoping. Praying. His radio crackled. "Stormbreaker, this is Boat 2. We're approaching the rock field. I can see the breakers. Where's the channel? Stay on my 6. Don't deviate. The entrance is coming up on the port side. The rocks appeared first as white foam waves crashing against formations that lurked just below the surface. The kind of rocks that had torn the bottom out of the Pacific Majesty. The kind that would shred a rescue boat in seconds. Jack throttled back, scanned the water. Memory and instinct merged. There. He pointed at what looked like solid wall of white water. The gap is right through the middle. Collins stared. Chief, I don't see anything. You're not supposed to. That's why nobody's found it. Jack adjusted course, aimed the bow directly at the chaos. All boats follow my exact heading. Stay in my wake. Do not deviate for any reason. He pushed the throttle forward. The boat hit the gap at 12 knots. Water sprayed over the bow. Rocks flashed past on both sides close enough to touch. The current grabbed them, tried to push them sideways. Jack fought the wheel, kept the boat centered. 60 meters ahead, the dogleg turn approached. Hard port in 3, 2, 1, now. He spun the wheel. The boat pivoted. A rock formation shot past on the starboard side, missing them by inches. Then they were through. Open water between them and the ship. Collins exhaled. Holy God. Don't celebrate yet. We still have to get back out. The other boats emerged from the channel behind them, all 3 intact. Jack allowed himself 1 second of relief. The Pacific Majesty loomed ahead. Up close, the damage was worse than the reports indicated. Her hull groaned with the sound of stressed metal. Water poured from scupper holes. The list was increasing 15 degrees now, maybe 16. Jack brought the boat alongside a lowered gangway. Crew members on the ship had already started loading passengers. The first to board were stretcher cases. An elderly man with a broken hip, a woman with severe lacerations from the impact, a child with a head wound unconscious, his mother following with terror in her eyes. Boat 2. Boat 3, pull alongside and start loading, Jack ordered. We've got 40 minutes before the tide window closes. The next 30 minutes were controlled chaos. Passengers streaming down gangways, rescue swimmers helping the injured, crew members shouting coordinates, children crying, adults trying to stay calm. Jack stayed at the helm watching the clock, watching the tide, watching the ship settle lower in the water. A woman climbed aboard his boat. Dark hair, kind eyes, familiar from the photograph Shaw had shown him. Dr. Maria Santos, behind her a boy, 9 years old, brown eyes wide with fear. Lucas. Maria clutched her son against her chest. Her voice shook. Thank you for coming. Jack met her eyes, saw the same terror he'd seen in hundreds of survivors over the years. The terror of almost dying. The terror of watching your child almost die. You're safe now, he said. We're going to get you home. Lucas looked up at him. Are you the one who found the way through the rocks? That's right. My mom said it was impossible. She said nobody could find a path. Jack almost smiled. Nothing's impossible when people are depending on you. The clock hit 37 minutes. Time to go. All boats begin withdrawal. Follow my line exactly. Same heading, same turns. The convoy pulled away from the ship. 112 passengers in the first wave. Less than 15% of the total. They'd need at least 6 more runs to get everyone off, if the ship lasted that long. The return through the channel was rougher. The tide was shifting, current increasing. Jack fought the wheel through every meter. The dogleg turn nearly caught them. A wave surge pushed them toward the rocks, and only reflexes saved them. When they emerged on the open ocean side, Collins looked like he might vomit. Chief, that was close. It's going to get closer every run. The tide doesn't care about our schedule. They raced toward shore. The helicopter was waiting to transport the most serious injuries to the hospital. The others would be processed at the staging area. As the first passengers disembarked, Jack checked his phone. 3 missed calls from Mrs. Patterson. His heart stopped. He dialed. She answered on the first ring. "Jack, don't panic. She's okay now." But her blood sugar dropped to 42. I had to use the emergency glucagon. 42. Dangerously low. Emergency glucagon meant she'd been minutes from seizure, from coma, from death. Where is she? I took her to the ER. They're monitoring her. She's stable, Jack. She's stable. But she's asking for you. She keeps asking where Daddy is. Jack pressed his hand against the boat's railing, squeezed until the metal cut into his palm. "Tell her I'm coming. Tell her Daddy's coming." "Jack, you can't. Not yet. There are still people on that ship." "I know." She understands. She told the doctor that her daddy was saving people from the ocean. She said you'd come when they were safe. Jack's eyes burned. He looked back at the staging area. More passengers being processed. More boats being prepared. The next tide window in 12 hours. 735 people still on that ship. "Tell her I love her. Tell her I'll be there as soon as I can." "I will. Be careful, Jack." He hung up. Stood there for a moment. Every instinct screaming at him to abandon the mission. To get on a helicopter. To hold his daughter and never let go. Shaw approached. "Chief, we need to brief for the next wave. The ship's list is increasing. Captain says they might not last until the next tide window." Jack looked at her. His voice was hollow. "My daughter's in the hospital. Blood sugar emergency." Shaw's face changed. "Christ, is she?" "She's stable. For now." "Jack, if you need to go." "I can't." The words tasted like ash. 700 people are still on that ship. If I leave, who runs the channel? Who shows your boats the path? "We could figure it out. In 12 hours with no training, you'd lose half your fleet on the rocks." Shaw was silent. She knew he was right. Jack straightened his shoulders. Pushed Emma from his mind. Pushed fear from his mind. Locked it all away in the same box where he'd buried Mike Chen and Sarah and the man he used to be. "Brief me on the ship's current status." "What's the engineering assessment?" "They've got pumps running at full capacity, but they're losing the battle. List is at 17 degrees, another 3 degrees, and the lifeboats on the high side become unusable." "How many lifeboats total?" 16. 8 usable now. Capacity for 400 passengers. Jack did the math. If the ship hits 20 degrees before the next tide window, we launch the lifeboats. They can't navigate the channel, but they can keep people alive long enough for us to reach them. And if the ship goes down before we can reach the lifeboats, then we're pulling people out of 40-degree water. Shaw absorbed this. The survival time in water that cold, 20 minutes. 30 if they're lucky and have flotation. Jack met her eyes. "Which means we don't let it get that far. What's the fastest we can turn these boats around?" "Crew changeover takes an hour. Refueling another 30 minutes. Cut it to 45 total. I want boats ready to launch the second the tide window opens." "Chief, the crews need rest." "They can rest when everyone's safe. I'll pilot the lead boat every run. Rotate your crews around me." Shaw started to argue, then stopped. She recognized the look in his eyes. The look of a man who'd made peace with whatever came next. "Understood, Chief. 45-minute turnaround." Jack walked toward the briefing room. His phone buzzed again. Photo from Mrs. Patterson. Emma, in a hospital bed, giving a thumbs up. IV in her arm. Pale, but smiling. Beneath the photo, a text message. "She says you're the best daddy in the world. She says save all the people so you can come home." Jack stared at the photo for a long time. Then he put the phone away and went to plan the next assault on the channel. The second wave launched at 02:01 and 7. Darkness. Cold. Waves twice as high as the afternoon run. Jack piloted the lead boat by memory and instinct. The channel was invisible in the dark. Just black water and blacker rocks. He felt his way through reading currents and foam patterns like Braille. 2 boats made it through clean. The third scraped bottom on the dogleg turn, not enough to sink, but enough to slow them down. They loaded 93 passengers this time. The ship was listing 19 degrees. Crew members had started rigging emergency ladders as the gangways became unusable. On the return trip, Jack's boat took a wave over the bow. Freezing water soaked everyone aboard. A passenger went hypothermic. They had to wrap her in emergency blankets and radio for helicopter evacuation. But they made it through. 642 people still on the ship. The third wave launched at 14:20. The ship was at 21 degrees. 2 lifeboats had been deployed as a precaution, holding the most vulnerable passengers in protected position away from the hull. Jack's hands were numb on the wheel. His body screamed for sleep. But every time he thought about stopping, he saw Lucas Santos's face, Maria's eyes. 800 people depending on a ghost who couldn't quit. They loaded 78 passengers. The ship groaned throughout the operation, deep metallic sounds that meant the hull was approaching failure. On the return trip, Jack's vision blurred. Just for a second. Just long enough for the current to catch them, push them toward the rocks. Collins grabbed the wheel, corrected course. "Chief, you need to rest." "I'll rest when it's done." "You'll kill us all if you pass out at the helm." Jack looked at the young rescue swimmer, saw concern, saw fear, saw the face of every man he'd ever served with. "Next wave," Jack said. "I'll sleep between waves." He didn't sleep, couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Emma. Hospital bed, IV drip, her voice asking where Daddy was. He checked his phone obsessively. Updates every 30 minutes. Blood sugar stable. Blood sugar rising. Blood sugar 110, she ate some crackers. The fourth wave launched at 0:30. Ship listing 23 degrees. 3 more lifeboats deployed. Jack's boat was the only one to complete the channel transit. Boat 2 hit the dogleg rocks and had to abort. Boat 3 lost engine power from water contamination. He loaded 31 passengers, all he could fit. Made the return trip alone. 533 people still on the ship. Dawn came gray and cold. The 5th wave was delayed, weather deteriorating, wind increasing, seas building. Shaw found Jack in the briefing room staring at satellite feeds. "Chief, the ship's captain is reporting structural failure in the lower compartments. He's estimating 4 hours until catastrophic hull breach." "What's our next tide window?" 6 hours. Jack did the math. It didn't work. "Then we go now. No tide window. Full assault through the rocks." "That's suicide. The channel will be—" "I know what the channel will be. I also know that 500 people are about to die if we don't try." Shaw stared at him. "You'd risk your crew on those odds." "I'd risk everything." Jack stood, walked to the window, looked out at the gray Alaskan sea. "When I was 23, I pulled a 16-year-old girl out of a capsized sailboat. Her parents drowned. She asked me why I didn't save them too. You know what I told her?" Shaw waited. "Nothing, because there was nothing to say. I saved who I could. I lost who I couldn't. That's the job." He turned to face her. 500 people are on that ship. Some of them are going to die today, maybe a lot of them, maybe some of my crew, maybe me. But if we don't try, they all die. Every single one. His voice hardened. "I didn't come out of retirement to watch people drown. I came to save who I could. So either authorize the mission or get out of my way." Shaw was silent for a long moment. Then she keyed her radio. "All rescue crews, emergency briefing. 10 minutes. We're going in." The emergency assault launched at 06:47. 6 boats, full crews, every rescue swimmer available. Jack stood at the helm of the lead boat, hands wrapped around the wheel so tight his knuckles went white. The channel would be brutal without the tide window. Currents running cross-pattern, waves breaking unpredictably over the rocks, visibility near zero from spray and foam. Collins stood beside him. "Chief, I want you to know something." "Save it for after." "No, I need to say it now." Collins gripped the railing. Whatever happens in there, it's been an honor. Serving with Stormbreaker, the real Stormbreaker, not just the legend. Jack glanced at him. This kid who reminded him of Mike Chen, young, brave, ready to die for strangers. Don't make it weird, Collins. We've got work to do. The radio crackled, Shaw's voice. Stormbreaker, all boats are in position. You have tactical command. Jack keyed the mic. All boats, listen up. This isn't going to be pretty. The channel is going to fight us every inch. Stay tight on my wake. If I go down, boat 2 takes lead. If 2 goes down, 3 takes lead. We do not stop until everyone is off that ship, or we have nothing left to give. He paused. Let the words settle. 11 years ago, I watched my partner die in waters just like these. He gave his life saving a fisherman he'd never met. Before he died, you know what he said to me. Silence on the radio. He said, "Don't you dare let this be for nothing." So today, we honor that. We don't let any of this be for nothing. Not the training, not the sacrifice, not the lives that brought us here. Jack pushed the throttle forward. Let's bring them home. The channel entrance loomed ahead. Without the tide window, it looked like a wall of white chaos. Waves exploding against rocks. Current ripping sideways. No visible path through. Jack aimed the bow directly at the mayhem. Hold on! The boat hit the gap at 15 knots. Faster than safe. Faster than smart. But speed was their only weapon against the cross-current. Water crashed over the bow. The boat lurched sideways. Jack fought the wheel muscles, screaming. A rock formation flashed past on the port side, close enough to scrape paint. "Dogleg in 40 meters, Collins shouted. Jack saw it. The turn that had nearly killed them twice before. Now, with waves breaking across the approach, it looked impossible. He did the impossible anyway. The wheel spun. The boat pivoted. For one eternal second, they hung on the edge of disaster rock on one side, crushing wave on the other. Then they punched through. Open water. Jack let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Behind him, boat 2 emerged from the chaos. Then 3, then 4. Boat 5 didn't make it. The radio crackled with their distress call. They'd hit the dogleg rocks. Hull compromised, taking on water. Crew abandoning to life rafts. Boat 6, rescue 5's crew and return to staging, Jack ordered. The rest of you on me. 4 boats continued toward the Pacific Majesty. The ship was dying. Her list had reached 26 degrees. Deck furniture slid toward the low side. Passengers clung to railings, to ropes, to each other. Emergency horns blared across the water. Jack brought his boat alongside what remained of the loading area. The gangway was gone. Crew members had rigged rope ladders down the tilted hull. Start loading injured first. Move, move, move. Passengers descended in terrified clusters. Some fell. Rescue swimmers caught them. Some froze on the ladders, paralyzed by fear. Collins climbed up to guide them down one by one. Jack counted heads. 12, 20, 31. The boat was at capacity. Boat 2, take my position. I'm pulling out for return transit. He maneuvered away from the ship. Behind him, Boat 2 slid into place. More passengers loading. More lives being saved. The return through the channel was worse than the approach. The current had shifted again. Jack missed the dogleg by inches, felt the hull scrape against rock, heard the sickening sound of fiberglass grinding. But they made it through. 31 passengers to safety. 499 still on the ship. Jack didn't wait for full turnaround. He grabbed a fresh crew, topped off the fuel, and headed back. The second assault run, the third, the fourth. Each one harder than the last. Each one closer to disaster. On the 5th run, Collins took a wave over the side and nearly went overboard. On the 6th, the engine sputtered from water contamination, and they limped through the channel on half power. But they kept going. The sun climbed. The ship sank lower. The count dropped. 400, 350, 300. At 14:23, The Pacific Majesty groaned a sound like a dying animal. Her hull split amidships. Water poured into compartments that had been holding. All passengers to the high side. The ship's captain's voice echoed across the deck. Prepare to abandon ship. Jack was mid-channel when he heard the call. He pushed the throttle to maximum. The boat screamed across the water. When he reached the ship, chaos had taken over. Passengers jumping into the water. Crew members throwing life rings. Lifeboats launching in desperate disorder. All rescue boats, this is Stormbreaker. Mass rescue operation. Pull everyone you can. Helicopters start water extraction. We've got about 20 minutes before hypothermia starts killing people. Jack brought his boat into the debris field. Passengers floated everywhere, orange life vests bobbing in the gray water. He pulled them aboard one by one. Collins dove over the side to reach swimmers who'd drifted away. "Chief, there's a kid in the water 50 meters starboard." Jack looked. A child, maybe 7 years old, drifting away from the group. No adult nearby. He didn't hesitate. Threw off his jacket, dove into the 40-degree water. The cold hit him like a truck. Every nerve screaming, every muscle seizing. But his body remembered. 16 years of training. 437 rescues. His stroke cut through the waves like a blade. He reached the child in 30 seconds. A little girl. Blue lips. Terrified eyes. "I've got you, sweetheart. Hold on to my neck. Don't let go." She grabbed him. Squeezed so tight he could barely breathe. Jack swam back toward the boat. Each stroke harder than the last. The cold draining him. The weight pulling him down. Collins reached over the side, grabbed the girl, hauled her aboard. "Chief, give me your hand." Jack reached up. His fingers brushed the railing. Slipped. The cold had stolen his grip strength. He went under. For a moment everything was silent. Just the dark water closing over him, the pressure in his lungs, the cold seeping into his bones. He thought about Emma. Her smile, her voice, all the way to the moon and back. Then hands grabbed him. Collins and another swimmer hauling him out of the water like a net full of fish. He lay on the deck, coughing water, shaking uncontrollably. "Blankets! Get him blankets!" Someone wrapped him in emergency thermal wrap. Someone else pressed warm packs against his core. Collins knelt beside him. "Chief, you crazy son of a, you almost died. You know that, right?" Jack's teeth chattered. "The girl? She's fine, warming up, crying for her mom, but alive." "Good." Jack closed his eyes. "Good. Chief, you need to get to the hospital. You've been in the field for 36 hours. You just went into 40-degree water. Your core temp is probably... How many left?" "What?" Jack forced his eyes open. "How many passengers still in the water?" Collins hesitated. "Maybe 60, 70. The helicopters are working them, but..." Jack sat up. The world spun. He grabbed the railing to steady himself. "Then we're not done. Chief, we're not done until everyone is safe or I'm dead. Help me up." Collins stared at him, saw something in his eyes that couldn't be argued with. He helped Jack to his feet. The rescue operation continued for another 2 hours. Jack stayed at the helm wrapped in blankets, shaking but functional. They pulled 37 more passengers from the water. The helicopters got another 22. When the final count came in, 841 passengers and 209 crew had been rescued. 9 passengers dead, 3 crew dead, 6 Coast Guard personnel injured, but 850 people would go home to their families. Shaw found Jack at the staging area sitting on an overturned crate staring at nothing. "Chief, the passenger manifest has been verified. Everyone is accounted for." Jack didn't respond. "You saved them. All of them. Well, almost all of them. 12 people died. And 850 lived. Because of you." Jack finally looked at her. His eyes were empty, hollowed out. "I need to see my daughter." Shaw nodded. "Helicopter's waiting. It'll take you straight to Chicago. Mrs. Patterson says Emma's been released from the hospital. She's home. She's stable. Jack stood. His legs barely held him. Chief. Shaw's voice stopped him. I'm recommending you for the Coast Guard medal. Again. What you did today, the channel runs the water rescue leading the operation on no sleep. It's going to be studied for years. Jack turned. I don't want a medal. I know. Give it to Collins. Give it to the boat crews. Give it to Mike Chen's family. Shaw smiled sadly. Mike Chen's family got his medal 11 years ago. But I'll make sure everyone knows their role. Jack walked toward the helicopter. Each step felt like moving through concrete. Behind him, rescue personnel were processing survivors, families reuniting, tears of relief, hugs that wouldn't end. He saw Dr. Maria Santos holding Lucas, both of them wrapped in blankets, both of them alive. She looked up as he passed. Their eyes met. You, she said. You're the one who found the channel, the one who came back over and over. Jack stopped. My son is alive because of you. Maria's voice cracked. I'm alive because of you. How do I thank someone for that? You don't have to thank me. But I want to. I need to. Jack looked at Lucas. 9 years old. Brown eyes. Still scared, but alive. Alive. Go home, Jack said. Hug your son. Make breakfast. Watch him grow up. Live the life you almost lost. Maria started crying. That's not enough. It's everything. Jack's voice softened. Trust me. It's everything. He walked away before she could respond. The helicopter lifted off at 1847. Jack watched Alaska disappear below, then closed his eyes. He slept for the first time in 40 hours. The flight to Chicago took 6 hours. Jack woke somewhere over Montana, disoriented, still wearing his salt-crusted rescue suit. His phone had 17 missed calls, text messages he couldn't bring himself to read. A voicemail from Diana Hartwell that he ignored. Only one message mattered. Mrs. Patterson, Emma's asking when you'll be home. She says she has something important to show you. Jack typed back. Landing in 2 hours. Tell her I'm coming. The helicopter touched down at Midway Airport at 02:30 Chicago time. A car was waiting. Shaw had arranged it. Jack gave the driver his address. The streets were empty. The city asleep. But when the car pulled up to his apartment building, a light was on in the window. Jack climbed the stairs. His legs felt like lead. His body screamed for rest. He opened the door. Emma was on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, Mrs. Patterson asleep in the chair beside her. The TV played some late-night cartoon sound, muted. Emma looked up. Daddy. Jack's vision blurred. He crossed the room in 3 steps, dropped to his knees, pulled her into his arms. I'm here, baby. I'm here. Daddy, you came back. I promised, didn't I? Emma squeezed him so tight he could barely breathe. I watched the news, she said into his shoulder. They showed the ship sinking. They showed the helicopters. Mrs. Patterson said you were there. She said you were saving people. I was. Did you save all of them? Jack closed his eyes, saw the 12 faces he couldn't save, heard the names he'd memorized from the casualty list. Almost all of them, baby. Almost all. That's okay, Daddy. Emma pulled back, looked at him with those eyes that saw everything. You tried. You tried really hard. That's what matters. Where did you learn that? You told me. When I was little, you said heroes don't always save everyone, but they always try. Jack's throat closed. He'd forgotten he'd said that. Forgotten a lot of things from those dark days after Sarah died. But Emma remembered. I have something for you, Emma said. She reached behind the couch cushion, pulled out a piece of paper. A drawing. Crayon on construction paper. It showed a boat on blue water. A man standing at the front. People climbing out of the water. A big yellow sun. At the top, in Emma's careful handwriting, My Daddy the Hero. Jack stared at the drawing, the simple lines, The bright colors. The pure, uncomplicated love. "I made it while you were gone," Emma said. Mrs. Patterson helped with the letters. "Do you like it?" Jack couldn't speak. Couldn't find words big enough for what he felt. He just pulled her close again and held on. "I love it, baby. I love it so much. I love you, Daddy, all the way to the moon and back. All the way to the moon and back again." They sat there on the floor, father and daughter wrapped in each other. Mrs. Patterson woke, briefly, smiled, and quietly let herself out. The sun started to rise, Chicago coming alive outside the window. Jack felt Emma's breathing slow. She was falling asleep against his chest. He carried her to her bed, tucked her in, stood in the doorway watching her sleep. 9 years old, brave, beautiful. The only person in the world who could make him feel like he was enough. His phone buzzed. Diana Hartwell again. This time he answered. "Morrison." "Jack. Thank God. I've been trying to reach you for days." "I was busy." "I know. I watched the news. Everyone watched." Diana's voice was different, softer, humbler. "Jack, I need to see you. When you're ready. There are things I need to say." "It can wait." "I know. But I don't want to wait. What I did to you, what I said, it doesn't matter now. It matters to me." Diana took a breath. "I fired a hero, Jack. I humiliated a man who spent 16 years saving lives. I made a terrible mistake, and I need to make it right." Jack was silent. "Come to the hotel, tomorrow, or the next day, whenever you're ready. I have an offer for you, a real one. Something that might help you and Emma." "I'm not interested in charity." "It's not charity. It's recognition. It's what you deserve." Diana paused. "And maybe if you're willing, it's a second chance. For both of us." Jack thought about it. The hotel. The lobby where he'd been humiliated. The woman who'd stripped his dignity in front of 50 people. But he also thought about what Collins had said. What Shaw had said. What Maria Santos had said. Maybe second chances were worth giving. "I'll think about it. That's all I ask." He hung up, set the phone aside. Through the window, the sun was fully up now. A new day. A new beginning. Jack Morrison, the janitor who saved 850 lives, walked to his daughter's room, sat in the chair beside her bed, watched her breathe. For the first time in 5 years, he didn't feel like a ghost. He felt like a father. He felt like a man. He felt finally like himself. 3 days passed before Jack walked back into the Sterling Grand Hotel. He wore the same clothes he'd worn to his interview 5 years ago. Clean jeans. White button-down shirt. The only dress shoes he owned. Emma had insisted on picking out his tie, a blue one with tiny anchors that Sarah had given him on their last anniversary. The lobby felt different now. Smaller somehow. Less intimidating. Jack remembered pushing his mop across these marble floors, invisible, forgotten, a ghost, moving through a world that didn't see him. Today, everyone saw him. Staff members stopped working, whispered, pointed. The front desk clerk he'd passed 1,000 times without acknowledgement actually stood up and nodded. Gerald intercepted him near the elevators. "Jack! My God, Jack!" Gerald grabbed his hand, pumped it up and down. "We saw the news. All of us. The whole staff watched the coverage. You were incredible. Absolutely incredible." "Just doing my job." "Your job?" Gerald laughed. "You saved 800 people. You went into freezing water to rescue a little girl. You piloted a boat through rocks that should have killed you. That's not a job, Jack. That's something else entirely." Jack didn't know how to respond. He'd spent 5 years being invisible. Being seen felt like wearing someone else's skin. "Is she upstairs?" "Ms. Hartwell." "Yes, she's been expecting you. Cleared her entire schedule." Gerald leaned closer. "Jack, I don't know what she's going to offer you, but whatever it is, you deserve more. You deserve everything." Jack nodded and walked toward the elevator. The ride to the executive floor took 30 seconds. Felt like 30 hours. Jack watched the numbers climb and thought about the last time he'd made this journey, hands cuffed in front of him, security escort on either side, 50 witnesses to his humiliation. The doors opened. Diana stood waiting. Not in her office, right there in the hallway, like she'd been watching for him. She looked different. The ice was gone. The armor she'd worn like a second skin had cracked and fallen away. What remained was someone younger, someone scared, someone human. "Jack, thank you for coming. You asked me to. I know, but I wouldn't have blamed you if you'd never spoken to me again." They stood there for a moment. The weight of everything between them, the firing, the humiliation, the helicopter, the rescue. The days of silence pressed down on the air. Diana broke first. "Can we talk in my office?" Jack followed her down the corridor, past the assistant who stared, past the boardroom where he'd never been invited, into a corner office with windows overlooking the Chicago skyline. Diana closed the door, turned to face him. "I practiced this speech 100 times. I wrote it down, memorized it. And now that you're here, I can't remember a single word." "Then don't give a speech, just talk." Diana laughed a broken sound. "That's not something I'm good at. Talking, connecting, seeing people as people instead of problems to solve." "I've noticed." "I know you have." She walked to the window, stared out at the city. "My father built this company from nothing. One hotel, then 5, then 20. He taught me that business was war, that weakness got you killed, that the only way to survive was to be harder than everyone else." She turned back to face him. "When he died, I thought I had to become him. Cold, ruthless, untouchable. I thought that was strength. I thought that was leadership. It's not. I know that now. Because of you." Jack said nothing. "When I fired you, I wasn't seeing a man. I wasn't seeing a father. I wasn't seeing a hero who'd spent 16 years saving lives. I was seeing a threat. Someone who challenged my authority. Someone who made me feel uncertain." Diana's voice cracked. "I destroyed a good man to protect my ego, and I've been trying to figure out how to live with that ever since." "You can't undo what happened." "No, I can't. But I can try to make it right." She walked to her desk, picked up a folder, handed it to Jack. "Director of Safety Operations, salary of $175,000 per year. Full benefits, medical coverage for Emma, the best specialists, the best medications, everything she needs, flexible hours. You leave by 4 every day, no exceptions. And a housing allowance so you can move somewhere with a yard, somewhere Emma can play." Jack stared at the folder, didn't open it. "This is guilt money." "No, this is recognition. This is what you should have been earning all along." Diana met his eyes. "Jack, I watched the news coverage. I saw what you did on that ship. The channel runs, the water rescue, the way you led those teams when everyone else was falling apart. You're the best crisis manager I've ever seen, and I want you working here, for real this time, not pushing a mop, using your actual skills. And if I say no, then I'll accept it. I'll write you a recommendation letter that opens any door you want. I'll make sure Emma's medical needs are covered through a foundation grant. And I'll spend the rest of my career trying to be someone who doesn't need to apologize for how she treats people." Jack was quiet for a long time. He thought about the apartment with the water stain on the ceiling, the pharmacy where he counted coins, the hospital bills stacked on the counter, the constant grinding fear of not being able to provide for his daughter. He thought about Sarah, what she would say, what she would want for Emma. And he thought about himself, the man he'd been before Somalia, the man he'd become after, the ghost who'd spent 5 years hiding from his own reflection. "I have conditions." Diana almost smiled. Name them. Home by 4. Every day. No exceptions. Emma needs me present, not just employed. Done. I build my own team, hire who I want, train how I want. No interference from the board. Done. And you treat every employee in this hotel the way you should have treated me. No more public firings. No more humiliation. No more treating people like they're beneath you just because they wear a different uniform. Diana was silent. That's the condition that matters, Jack said. The job, the money, the benefits, that's just paper. What I want is for you to be better. What I want is for the next janitor who works in this hotel to be seen. Really seen. Not invisible. Diana's eyes glistened. She blinked hard. I can't promise I won't make mistakes. I'm still learning, still trying to figure out who I'm supposed to be without my father's shadow. Then keep learning, keep trying. That's all any of us can do. Diana extended her hand. Do we have a deal? Jack looked at her. This woman who'd broken him. This woman who was trying to put herself back together. He took her hand. We have a deal. The announcement went out the next morning. Jack Morrison, former Coast Guard rescue swimmer, hero of the Pacific Majesty Rescue, appointed Director of Safety Operations at the Sterling Grand Hotel. The press picked it up immediately. The janitor who saved 800 lives gets promoted to executive. The story wrote itself. Jack ignored the attention. Focused on the work, built his team, designed new protocols, created training programs that made every security officer in the hotel capable of responding to emergencies with professionalism and compassion. 3 weeks after he started, Captain Shaw called. Chief, the Pentagon is requesting a consultation. Another maritime situation developing off the coast of Mexico. They want your analysis. I have a job. This would be remote, part-time, a few hours a week reviewing intel, providing recommendations. Your expertise is too valuable to waste entirely. Jack thought about it. About the satellite imagery that still made sense to him when it made sense to no one else. About the rescue patterns that lived in his muscle memory. About the lives that might be saved if he shared what he knew. I'll think about it. That's all I ask. He didn't think about it for long. The next week he started consulting for Coast Guard operations. Remote analysis. Pattern recognition. The kind of work he could do from his living room while Emma did her homework at the kitchen table. 2 lives, both meaningful, both possible. Emma's 10th birthday arrived on a Saturday in April. Jack threw a party, a real party with balloons and cake, and 12 kids from her class running through the apartment like a small hurricane. Mrs. Patterson helped with the food. Gerald came by with a gift, a telescope Emma had mentioned wanting. Even Collins showed up dressed in civilian clothes, carrying the biggest stuffed animal Jack had ever seen. From the crew, Collins said. They wanted her to know that Stormbreaker's daughter is part of the Coast Guard family. Emma hugged the stuffed dolphin like it was the greatest treasure in the world. At the end of the party, after the guests had gone, and the apartment was quiet, Jack sat with Emma on the couch, cake crumbs on the coffee table, birthday paper scattered across the floor. Did you have a good day, baby? The best day ever, Daddy. Yeah. Emma leaned against his shoulder. I got presents, and cake, and all my friends came, and you were here, the whole time. You didn't have to leave for work or rescue people or anything. Jack felt the words like a gift. I'm going to be here more, Emma. Not always. Not every second. But more than before. I know, Daddy. It's okay if you have to save people sometimes. That's who you are. Is it? Emma looked up at him with those eyes that saw everything. Yeah. You're a helper. You help people who need it. That's what makes you happy. You make me happy. I know. But helping people makes you happy too. I can tell. She smiled. You don't have to choose, Daddy. You can do both. You can be my dad and a hero at the same time." Jack pulled her close, held her against his chest. "When did you get so smart? I learned from you." They sat there until the sun set. Father and daughter, survivor and healer, two people who'd lost everything and found each other. The Sterling Grand Hotel held a gala that summer, a celebration of the company's new direction, a recognition of the employees who made it successful. Jack stood at the back of the ballroom, uncomfortable in his rented tuxedo. Emma was at the front table with Mrs. Patterson wearing the purple dress she'd picked out for the occasion. Diana took the stage. The room quieted. "Thank you all for being here tonight. This event is about celebrating our people, not our profits, not our numbers. Our people, the ones who make this company what it is." She paused, scanned the room until she found Jack's eyes. "6 months ago, I made a terrible mistake. I fired a man for doing his job too well. I humiliated him in front of his colleagues. I stripped his dignity because I was too scared to see him as a person." The room stirred. Whispers, glances. That man went on to save 850 lives. He led a rescue operation that will be studied for decades. He risked his own life to pull a child from freezing water. And when he came back, when he could have demanded anything, he only asked me for one thing. Diana's voice cracked. "He asked me to see people. Really see them. Not as problems or liabilities or protocol violations, as humans. With stories, with struggles, with reasons for why they do what they do." She took a breath. "So tonight, I want to honor that request. I want to honor the man who taught me that strength isn't about control. It's about connection. It's about recognizing the humanity in everyone around us, especially the ones we've been trained to overlook." She gestured toward Jack. "Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in recognizing Jack Morrison. Not as a hero, not as a legend, but as a father, a friend, a colleague, and the best person I've ever had the privilege of working with." The room erupted. Standing ovation, applause that shook the chandeliers. Jack stood there frozen, every instinct telling him to disappear, to fade into the background, to become invisible again. Then Emma's voice cut through the noise. "That's my daddy! That's my daddy!" She was standing on her chair, waving both arms, grinning like the sun. Jack laughed, a real laugh, the kind that came from somewhere deep inside. He walked to the front of the room, took Emma's hand, looked out at the crowd, the staff members he'd worked alongside for years, the executives who'd once ignored him, the woman who'd fired him and then fought to make it right. "I'm not good at speeches," Jack said. "I'm better at actions, better at doing than talking." He looked down at Emma. "But someone taught me that being brave isn't about not being scared. It's about being scared and doing it anyway. So here I am, scared, talking anyway." Laughter rippled through the room. "I spent 5 years being invisible. I thought that was safety. I thought disappearing was the same as surviving. But it wasn't. It was just hiding. Hiding from my past. Hiding from my pain. Hiding from the person I was afraid to be." Jack's voice steadied. "It took a crisis to bring me back. 800 people on a sinking ship. A child in freezing water. My daughter in a hospital bed. All of it happening at once. All of it forcing me to remember who I was. Who I am." He looked at Diana. "And it took someone willing to give me a second chance. Someone willing to admit she was wrong. Someone brave enough to grow." He looked back at the crowd. "That's what I want to leave you with tonight. Not my story. Not my medals. Not the rescues or the operations or any of that. Just the second chances are real. Growth is possible, and the people around you, the ones you've ignored, the ones you've overlooked, the ones you think you know, they might be carrying stories that would break your heart and rebuild it in the same breath." Jack lifted Emma onto his hip. "So see each other, really see each other. That's all any of us want. That's all any of us need. To be seen." The applause this time was different, quieter, deeper. The kind that came from understanding, not just appreciation. Jack walked back to his seat, held Emma close. Let the moment wash over him. Afterward, as the gala wound down, Jack stood on the hotel balcony. The Chicago skyline glittered in the darkness. The sounds of the party drifted through the glass doors. Diana joined him. That was a good speech. I meant it. I know. Diana stood beside him at the railing. My father never would have given a speech like that. He would have talked about profits and market share and competitive advantage. Your father isn't here. No, he's not. Diana was quiet for a moment. But I think maybe he'd be proud of what we're building. Something different. Something better. Jack looked at her. This woman who'd been his enemy and become his ally. This woman who was still learning, still growing, still becoming. He would be, Jack said, not because of the profits, because of you. Because you're trying to be better than he taught you to be. Diana's eyes glistened. Thank you, Jack, for everything. Thank you for seeing me. She smiled. A real smile. The kind that transformed her entire face. You made it easy. They stood there in comfortable silence. Two people who'd found something unexpected. Not friendship exactly, not yet. But the beginning of it. The possibility. Inside, Emma pressed her face against the glass. Waved at Jack. He waved back. You should go to her, Diana said. She's been waiting all night. Jack nodded, walked back inside, scooped Emma into his arms. Daddy, that was amazing. Everyone was clapping. Everyone was looking at you. Were you embarrassed? No way. I was proud. Super proud. Emma squeezed his neck. You're the best daddy in the whole world. And you're the best daughter in the whole universe. That's bigger than the world. I know. That's why I said it. They left the gala together, father and daughter, hand in hand, the night air cool on their faces. The apartment was quiet when they got home. Mrs. Patterson had left a note on the counter, leftovers in the fridge, Emma's medicine organized for the week, instructions for the weekend. Jack tucked Emma into bed, sat on the edge of her mattress, watched her fight sleep. Daddy. Yeah, baby. Do you think Mommy saw up in heaven? Do you think she saw what you did, saving all those people? Jack's chest tightened. He thought about Sarah, her laugh, her warmth, the way she used to look at him like he was the only person in the world. Yeah, baby. I think she saw. Do you think she's proud? I think she's always been proud. Of both of us. Emma smiled. Her eyes closed, her breathing slowed. Jack sat there for a long time, watching her sleep, listening to the silence. He thought about everything that had happened. The firing, the helicopter, the rescue, the second chance. All of it leading here, to this moment, this peace. Sarah was gone. Mike Chen was gone. 12 passengers from the Pacific Majesty were gone. The grief would never fully disappear. But neither would the love. Neither would the life they'd built. Neither would the daughter who saw him not as a janitor or a hero or a ghost, but simply as her father. The man who showed up. The man who stayed. The man who loved her all the way to the moon and back. Jack Morrison stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the Chicago skyline. Somewhere out there, boats were still sailing. Storms were still brewing. People were still in need of saving. But not tonight. Tonight he was home. Tonight he was exactly where he was supposed to be. And for the first time in 5 years, that was enough. Some heroes wear uniforms and carry medals. Some heroes save the world. But the greatest heroes are the ones who show up day after day for the people who need them most. Jack Morrison was that kind of hero. And his daughter knew it. That was everything.